Good morning. Our reading today is from the book of James, chapter 1. You must understand this, my beloved siblings. Let everyone be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger, for human anger does not produce God's righteousness. Therefore, rid yourself of all sordidness and rank growth of wickedness, and welcome with meekness the implanted word that has the power to save your souls. Be doers of the word and not merely hearers who deceive themselves. For if any are hearers of the word and not doers, they are like those who look at themselves in the mirror. For they look at themselves and, on going away, immediately forget what they were like. But those who look into the perfect law, the law of liberty, and persevere, being not hearers who forget, but doers who act, they will be blessed in their doing. If any think they are religious and do not bridle their tongues but deceive their hearts, their religion is worthless. Religion that is pure and undefiled before God is this: to care for orphans and widows in their distress and to keep oneself unstained by the world. Ancient thoughts from our from our tradition for our current consideration.
I'm going to preach on anger this morning. Jim preached on anger last week. I don't know how you feel, but anger seems like a relevant topic in our world. Jim preached from the Sermon on the Mount, and this text that we read this morning is from James, a letter. He draws upon the Sermon on the Mount and on the Hebrew scriptures. There's a lot of connection there. But it reminds me a lot of Psalm 4, which is something that I have sort of written on my memory, which says, "Be angry, but do not sin." Now, sin is a really heavy-laden word. I would say, be angry, but do not stray from the path of love. Do not cause harm. But meditate within your inward being, within your heart. Lying down on your bed, be still. Wise words. Anger is an emotion, like Jim talked about. It can be a healthy, short-term response to something, but dangerous when it starts to become something that we ruminate on, causing us to kind of chase our tail. It can cause you to get into a very dualistic mindset. It can, if we don't pay attention to it, sort of seethe just below the surface and come out in lots of different ways we don't always like, coming out sideways and hurting people. It's also something that feels kind of hot. It can flare up. It's often likened to something that causes a fire. James talks about envy and strife being causes of anger in a community. We know there are lots of things that cause us to be angry, whether it's just a little perturbance or a lot of anger. We might be tired. We might be stressed, not getting exercise, not drinking enough water. There are physiological causes to anger. There are also old wounds that we carry that someone kind of pokes at with something they say or do, and then we have these kind of outsized reactions to those because that's a wound that isn't healed. We also have envy. We have the frustration of our own desires. There can be a lot of ego involved in anger. You probably know what I'm talking about. Now, James is talking to the community and giving practical instructions for how to live together, saying, envy and strife cause anger, and angry speech, in particular, angry words, are a catalyst for that strife to grow and spread in a community. He's cautioning folks to slow down, to be slow to anger, slow to speak. And his emphasis on speech, the tongue, and speaking false words and angry words, I think that resonates today in our culture. He says if we don't bridle our tongue, if we don't kind of pull back on what we're going to say, our religion is worthless. And this is how I understand that if we hold as a core commitment in our life, walking this path of love, this sort of commitment to radical universal love for everyone, everywhere, all of the time, then that necessarily shapes the way we see things, it shapes the way we think, it causes us to kind of question cultural norms, like the easy automatic response. It's a filter for our words and actions. It requires us to take care with our words. My sermon could end there. There's a lot of wisdom just in that for all of us to meditate on. And Jim talked a lot about that last week. But I actually want to do something a little different this morning. I want to consider all of this wisdom around anger, and I want to put that in conversation with the fact, the reality that for some people, anger isn't really an acceptable response, that there are those who are not as free to express anger as others. What about those whose anger is repeatedly silenced or mocked? How is this message about anger heard differently by those folks, those who are not as free to express it or don't feel as free to express it? How has this message about don't be angry, be slow, been used to suppress certain people's expression of anger? I want to talk about women and anger. And the danger in speaking categorically about any group of people is that I'm going to make generalizations that do not apply to every person. They're not going to apply to every female identifying person. They're going to apply to people who don't identify as female. I also want to point out that I am a white middle-class woman. So I have a certain set of experiences because of that. Being a woman of color and dealing with anger and expressing anger is a whole other layer. And I can point to some of that reality, but I can't speak to it from my own experience. I can't speak to it in its fullness. So I just want to lay that out there before I begin. Do you know how hard it can be for women to just be angry? Early on, a lot of girls kind of get these subtle and not so subtle messages that it's not okay for them to express their anger. Anger can be equated with being rude, being ugly, being unfeminine. And studies show, although I don't think we really needed a study for this, that little boys and little girls get angry in about the same measure. But boys' anger can get sort of overlooked. Well, he's just a boy. That's how boys are. While girls' anger can get looked down upon. And so anger can become a source of shame that's internalized for girls who grow up to become women. And many women, and I really hope, I'm Gen X, I hope for the generations behind me this is less and less and less true. But for many women are socialized to be polite, to be accommodating, to be likable, to absorb other people's anger and other people's emotions, but not to openly express their own, to care and tend for others' emotions, but who's there to care for their anger? We're subtly taught to turn our anger into tears because that's less threatening. We know how to deal with that. Or we just suppress it altogether. So these messages come in lots of subtle ways, but they're also pretty overt. In politics, men are often lauded for displays of hostility and anger. I'm sure you can think of at least one example. But women are mocked for far less, sort of derided. Men in workplaces can get promoted who show aggression and a little bit of hostility, harsh language, but women get demoted for the same thing. So women can be called bossy, feisty, nasty, hysterical, crazy, dismissed. And I'm sure you've heard the term angry Black woman. That is a way that African American women are silenced before they even begin. And women, African American women often feel like they have to dial it back in workplaces. These experiences of anger aren't universal for all women, but I think there are some definite themes that emerge when we talk about this. I watched a TED Talk by a woman named Soraya Chemaly, and she's an activist, she's a journalist, she wrote a book about women in rage, and she was giving this TED Talk, and she opened it by talking about her mother, and she's probably about my age, maybe a little bit older. She said one time she came home from school, and her mom didn't know she was there yet, but she heard this strange sound from upstairs. She kind of snuck upstairs and witnessed her mom taking her entire set of wedding china and hawking it off the porch, just letting it smash, smash, smash. And this was like a prized possession. The children could not touch this on pain of death. This was something that she coveted. But there she was, just throwing it off the veranda. And then, she sneaks back downstairs. Her mom didn't ever know that she had seen this. And her mom comes downstairs like, "Oh, hi, honey. How was school today? How are you doing? Can I get you a snack?" Just completely compartmentalizing whatever this was. And breaking things, breaking ice. It can be a way to get things out that need to get out. But what next? She couldn't talk about it. She did something alone when she didn't think she was being seen. Did she ever do anything about the source of that anger? Or did she just let it go, push it down, it's fine? Broke all the china, it's fine. Anger is this emotion, I think, with a lot of energy. It's sort of this kinetic energy, and that needs some kind of expression. It's going to come out some way. It's going to come out, sideways, or a lot of times it gets kind of pushed back inside, and it becomes illness. I wonder if we move too quickly from anger sometimes. Hurry to soothe ourselves or sort of bottle it up without spending some time to just meditate on it or let it be. What if we could just be angry without trying to change it? Notice it, but not suppress it. So I think anger contains a lot of information, sometimes, not all the time, oftentimes. It can signal something that needs attention in our lives. Maybe we do need more sleep. Maybe we need to drink more water. Maybe we need more connection. Maybe we need more balance in our life. Maybe there's something in a relationship that needs care. Maybe there is a wound that needs healing, that it needs time and loving kindness and the care of others to heal. Anita Barrows, who's a Buddhist psychologist, said that while anger can be destructive and debilitating, with acceptance and investigation, it can work to break open the heart, acting as a searing flame, an energy which can cut through layers of deception and conditioning. If aversion to experiencing this unpleasant emotion leads us to abdicate our anger, she says, we lose touch with a deep wellspring of strength and positive force for many kinds of change. So anger can be information. Anger arises out of all sorts of things. Anger arises also out of injustice. So I wanted to share a short story from my life. I told this in the early service. I'm always a little hesitant to share stories because I don't want this to be about me, but this is an illustration. I think it was 12 or 13 years ago. I was in my first year at the Seminary of the Southwest. That's where I started. That seminary is located Duval and 32nd Street. It's really close to the UT campus. And I was working at the front desk. as a student worker, answering phones, directing people. Before my shift, I decided to take a walk through that neighborhood around Duval and just get a little exercise, look at the flowers. It was a nice day. And so I did that. I'm walking back on Duval, and all of a sudden I just feel this car slowing down. It was a big white van with no windows on the side. And I'm immediately like, I can feel the adrenaline starting to pump, like, okay, do I need to run? What do I need to do? This doesn't feel safe, because the other cars weren't slowing down. And this van slows down. The passenger side window is rolled down. I look over, and there's a man in an odd state of undress. And then he just rushes off. And I remember that I was shaking because I got out my cell phone. My hands were shaking, and I was like, I'm getting a picture of this license plate. And I was so shaken up by that experience. And I walked back because it was time for me to start my shift. And I was like, okay, I need a few minutes, because I was still had that adrenaline pumping. I told somebody in the administration, they're like, oh my gosh, do you need to go home? We can cover this, don't worry about it. I was like, no, I'm gonna be fine. I'm gonna be fine. And so I took my little time. I wasn't actually fine, but I stood there. I came back to the desk, I sat down, I was like, okay, I can do this. I called the police, I made a police report. I never heard back from them. But I sat there. The president of the seminary came out, I was like, are you okay? I'm so sorry this happened. Do you need to go home? It's like, no, I'm fine. I'm fine, I can handle this, I'm not fragile. Don't worry about it. So I pressed it down. I might have still been shaking, but I was like, hello, welcome to the Seminary of the Southwest. How can I help you? People come in, I just put a smile on my face. But really, I still had that fear going on. And what I can still connect with is the rage that I felt, that I couldn't just walk in the middle of the day in the neighborhood. And that was not the first time something like that had happened. That wasn't even the scariest time. And the thing is, this is my story, but every single woman I have ever talked to has stories. So just multiply that. There are millions, billions of stories like this, okay? We should be angry about that. That is a good reason to be angry. There are a lot of good reasons to be angry. If you think about women dealing in this post-Roe v. Wade world, bleeding out in parking lots, all of the things associated with that. About, even before that happened, African American women in this country die at a much higher rate when pregnant or giving birth. They, controlling for income, circumstances, they still die at a higher rate. The theory is that it's due to the stress of racism. We should be angry about that. There is anger that needs to be heard and not too quickly silenced. We need to slow down and be still and listen to the anger that springs from injustice. Many of you know who Audre Lorde was. Black, lesbian, feminist, public intellectual, activist, incredible orator. She talked about and worked for and on behalf of women, but also pointed out that women of color experience all of these things to a greater degree. And she spoke several times, but once to an audience of women at the National Women's Studies Conference, 1981, about anger. And I think her words are so wise and wonderful, I want to share them with you. Audre Lorde said, "My response to racism is anger. I have lived with that anger, ignoring it, feeding upon it, learning to use it before it laid my visions to waste for most of my life. Once I did it in silence, afraid of the weight, my fear of anger taught me nothing. Your fear of that anger will teach you nothing also." Women responding to racism means women responding to anger, anger of exclusion, unquestioned privilege, racial distortion, silence, ill use, stereotyping, defensiveness, misnaming, betrayal, and co-optation. Anger is an appropriate reaction to racist attitudes, as is fury when the actions arising from those attitudes do not change. To those women here who fear the anger of women of color more than their own unscrutinized racist attitudes, I ask, is the anger of women of color more threatening than the woman hatred that tinges all aspects of our lives? It is not the anger of other women that will destroy us, but our refusals to stand still, to listen to its rhythms, to learn within it, to move beyond the manner of presentation to the substance, to tap that anger as an important source of empowerment. And I really think that last piece is key, to listen for the substance of the anger first, rather than critiquing the way it's said, the way it comes out, the presentation. Even if it makes us uncomfortable, even if it sounds harsh in our ears, even if we get filled with intensity and lots of emotion, just to be still and listen to the anger of injustice. Anger is energy that can be transformed. Anger can motivate us to act in ways to bring more light and more love into the world. It's a powerful force when channeled, one that we don't want to ignore or disdain or walk away from. I think about, power lines and the way that those power lines channel energy. And if they get, torn down in a storm and you have a live wire, it's a dangerous thing. It's sparking. It can cause a huge fire to spread very quickly. But when those wires are connected, they can illuminate the world. That's what we can do when we channel our anger. I think we just need a little more nuance when we talk about anger. And I was talking to Babs afterward. I think we could have multiple sermons about anger and never hit all of the different nuances to all of this. Anger comes to us from many paths. There's a spectrum of, ego and envy and strife and woundedness and also injustice. It's not often purely good or bad. It's a mix of motivations. It's a mix which makes it more complicated for us to sort through when it arises because we're a mix. It's kind of messy. That's why we don't want to immediately react with words and actions, but take that pause and that breath. Check in with our core, what's at the core of us, this universal love. Slow down, be still, listen. Can we listen for how the words and actions that we are contemplating resonate or not with that radical universal love? Knowing that love also means justice. Like a tuning fork, can we strike that tuning fork and listen for the pitch? I don't know where each one of you is in sort of your journey with anger at this moment. Maybe you need to be angry, to not be afraid of your anger or the weight of it, like Audre Lorde says, to allow yourself the feeling, to sit in it a little longer without trying to push it down or just change it into something else. Maybe you need to slow down, to practice the pause, to put a space and a breath between your anger and your words and actions. Find a healthy release for that initial spark until you can move from your center, from your values, your core commitment. Maybe you need to listen for the humanity of the other person, to give space for the anger of injustice to cry out, be heard, without making demands about how those words are spoken. Maybe you need to act. Maybe you need to channel your anger into something that illuminates, into the cause of justice, to work in solidarity with others to illuminate the world with love. all of us have to do all of these things, right? It's all part of our whole journey. Many different experiences of anger, kinds of anger that we're wrestling with. We're a mix, and that requires care and thoughtfulness. So this experience of anger is a journey, and I am very thankful to be on the journey with all of you. So I invite you to your own reflections.